What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the second how to build a quadcopter tutorial video. In this video, we're going to be talking about all the supplies and decisions and choices and all that exciting stuff that you're going to have to make in order to build a quad. First things first, I'm going to be assuming you guys are building a 250, but it really doesn't matter from this point forward. Some of the power of the motor and the ESC and the battery and all that changes as you get bigger, but for the most part, the types of supplies you need are all the same. Every quadcopter breaks down into the same types of parts. You need some motors. You need ESCs, which are kind of buried in here, but I'll show you some in a minute. You need motors, ESCs, obviously some propellers, some sort of frame, some sort of flight controller, which basically accepts the transmitter's signals and also does balancing and stuff like that. Obviously a receiver to receive those signals, and then it feeds them into the control board. The control board then sends out those signals to the ESCs, which then tell the motors how fast to spin, basically. So those are like the main parts that you need. Okay, from there you have you require a battery. I put the battery on the bottom, but a lot of people put the battery actually in here. If you do put a battery on the bottom, just for the record, make sure you can land and have like landing gear that is taller than the battery. You don't want to be bouncing on your battery. The battery, for the record, a LiPo battery is highly flammable. And so what happens is, first of all, just another thing, since we're talking about batteries, if a LiPo battery over discharges, it has the propensity to expand. And so, for example, this is an iPod that was left in my drawer for, I don't know, years. And you can see that it looks like an airbag deployed. Actually, that's a LiPo battery, and what's happened is it got over discharged and it expanded. If I then took a screw and hammered the screw in there, or a nail or whatever, this would likely erupt in very violent flames. Okay, so that's LiPo batteries for you. So it's important that you don't over discharge your LiPo battery, but also that you just don't go puncturing LiPo batteries. That's a recipe for a problem. One thing I'll show you, let me pull back here and grab one of these. So here's a battery. This is a LiPo battery. This is a Venom Flight Pack 2100, 11.1 volts. I recommend the battery. Right now, I would not buy the 2100. This is the older model. Get the 2200 with the universal adapter. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but buy that. But anyway, this is a low voltage warning. Some control boards will come with one, but if it doesn't, I highly recommend you get one. What it does is it plugs into the battery, and it tells you the voltage of the battery, of its entire battery, and then also the voltage per cell in the battery. And then as it gets below a certain point, an alarm will go off and tell you that you need to bring in your quadcopter and charge it. That way you don't over discharge the battery and create a fire hazard and all that. So I recommend that. On the topic of batteries too, basically when you go and buy, let's say you buy a quadcopter kit, it's going to come with, a lot of times it'll just be the frame, the ESCs, and the motors. But then you can find some kits that come with the frame, the ESCs, the motors, the control board, the power distribution board. They come basically with everything you need except a battery, some sort of battery charger. This is what I use to charge, balance, discharge my batteries. This is a Tenergy TB6B. It's a nice high quality charger. I recommend you do not cheap out on your charger. But it has like a fast charge, balance, typical charge, and a discharge, and you can save various profiles in there for your batteries. Anyway, highly recommended for this charger. So, you know, battery quality is really important, and taking care of your batteries is important. So it won't come with the battery, it won't come with the charger, it won't come with a receiver, and it won't come with a transmitter. So this is my transmitter. This is a FS-TH9S, FlySky TH9X controller, or transmitter rather. And this one's a pretty high quality controller. It costs basically just as much as the entire quad. So you don't have to spend so much money on the controller. I like this one. It's got various profiles. You can program stuff and you can fly just about anything with it. But really for any quadcopter, you just need these two sticks. That's it. So find a controller that has those two sticks and you're good to go. Okay, you don't need to spend too much money on this, in all honesty. So there's that. So that's kind of like all the essentials that you'll need. Now you can buy the ESCs and the motors separate, the frame separate, the control board separate, and all that. or you can get them together. It just depends on the prices at the time. So in the description, I'll put a list of supplies that you need and some suggested kits and all that. But at any given time, the prices are going to fluctuate and change and all that. If you want to support the channel, you can use those links. They're Amazon affiliate links. But if you find like a better price somewhere else or whatever, by all means, go there and save yourself some money. So generally, at least for me, what I've found is, see, like the motors and the ESCs cost about $65 to $75, but you can find kits that are the motors, ESC, and frame, and sometimes some other stuff for like $85 or $80. So I usually buy at least those together. And if you can buy like the whole kit with everything else that you need, go for it. So now what we're going to talk about is the control board. So this is one example of a controller. And this is another flight controller. These are two totally different ones. As you can see, this one is mounted like diagonally. It's shaped like a diamond almost. Because the control board, what it has is a bunch of gyros on it. And it not only does it take signals from your receiver, or yeah, basically, so your receiver takes a signal from the transmitter, the receiver sends the signal into here, and then this sends the signal out. Not only does it take the signal from your transmitter, basically, it also has gyros on it to help balance the board. So like if a gust of wind pushes your quad this way real quick, the quad will just automatically stabilize itself. You won't actually have to do that. So that's one example of what the control board does for you. But as you can see, this one, so it wants to go this way, which works on some quads, but not all other quads. And what I found is most quads actually want, they have holes punched for the flight board to actually be a square flight board like this one is. So this is a KK multi-copter board. I like the board. It's super cheap. It's like $5 if you find it at the right place. But as you can see, I've kind of had to do my own work here. This is just a piece of wood. Literally, I cut the piece of wood and I drilled some holes in the piece of wood so this could mount and stay stable. It's really important that this is lined up very nicely and it's stable. Otherwise, you're going to have unstable flight. Okay. So anyways, that's that. I bought this one. This one's a lot more expensive. It's more like, I think, $15, $20. But it's square, and so that's why I was really just hoping to find a square one. So do what you want. If you want to save money, this is more than fine. I've flown this. I've crashed the crap out of this one. It does fine. But anyway, that's that. So that's one difference between the one I'm going to build and ones I've built. Also, let me pull up the distribution boards. So these are two distribution boards. This is one here. This one basically allows you to, they've got bullet connectors, and then this is just a simple distribution board where basically you're going to connect the wires, and then on the bottom side you'll solder the wires to the distribution board. This distribution board is actually the distribution board I learned a valuable lesson on, and that is that carbon fiber conducts electricity. I had no idea. I didn't even think that the frames I was buying were actually like real carbon fiber. I thought they were just like fake carbon fiber made to look like carbon fiber. but yeah, if you have a real carbon fiber frame, understand that carbon fiber has resistance, and that means it conducts electricity. So, and it's the worst kind because it's got a relatively weak conductivity. And so basically the short circuit won't happen immediately. You'll plug in the battery, you'll go fly it outside, and anywhere from like 1 to 5 minutes later, your quad is smoking. And if you don't catch it quick enough, 1, it's a fire hazard. 2, you'll fry everything and you'll waste like $80. So keep that in mind. So don't be like me. Respect the carbon fiber. But anyway, you'll solder basically all the connections here and all that. So it's kind of a pain if you have a basic board like this, but again, this board's really cheap. This one's a little more expensive. It has nice foam padding on the bottom side, so for idiots like me who think you can just put it right on the carbon fiber, it's basically protected like that. Also, foam padding reduces vibration. But it's got these nice connectors. Everything's already soldered, so it saves you some time. Also, it comes with this XT60 adapter. So we're going to talk about that now for just a moment. So first of all, batteries, for example, like this is a Venom 2100 11.1 volt battery, but it's a little older and it uses what's called a Dean's plug. Now this one's, you can kind of probably see it, I don't know. But yeah, so it's a Dean's plug. And as you can see, that does not plug into that. Like, it just doesn't work. So you want to pay attention to what kind of plugs you're using. Now, they do make converters. So I have 3 of these. I'm not about to update the battery. But they do make Deans to XT60 converters. So you can tell it's an XT60 by the way that it is. Anyway, it's the shape, right? The shape and the color and all that, you can tell. It also says XT60 on here, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that or not. But anyway, this is like the new, pretty much everybody's using this adapter. But even if you find a Deans adapter, they make Deans to XT60 converters. So it's totally fine, doesn't really matter. So that is basically all the all the basic things that you're going to need. You've got the frame, the motors, ESCs, propellers, and go ahead and buy like lots of propellers. So propellers are really, really cheap. Just buy them and have them around, because they'll probably, like, the first like 10 times you fly, you'll break propellers. Just the way that it is. So frame, motors, ESC, propellers, get lots of them. A low voltage warning if it doesn't come with one. Like this one, this board, I'm like 99% certain that that's what this is. I'll find out, but I'm pretty sure this comes with one, so just keep that in mind. If you might actually have a control board that literally comes with one, but if you don't have one, get one. You need a transmitter and a receiver. This is my receiver, and then this is my transmitter. You can buy separate receivers, so I actually have an extra receiver that I'll be using on this new quad. So transmitter, receiver, you need, and most transmitters come with a receiver. My point was that you can usually buy a transmitter that it comes with a receiver, but if you want another receiver, you can buy another one. You need some way to charge, balance, and discharge batteries. That's this Tenergy TB6B. Other than that, small things that you might need or you might have around the house or whatever, you're going to need a... Let me just grab everything, basically. You're going to need a soldering iron. Okay, so a cheap soldering iron will do. This one's actually a Radio Shack soldering iron. So this is like vintage, man. This is serious. This is highly valuable. So soldering iron, a way to clean the soldering iron, helping hands for the soldering iron. So if you've ever soldered something, you realize you want like 30 hands. This will at least get you to 4 hands. So that's nice. So you'll want some helping hands there. You'll obviously need some solder. What you're looking for is rosin core solder. I don't know too much about soldering myself. I just know what the internet tells me to get, and that's rosin core solder. The helping hands, iron cleaner. You'll want to have like foam. So like I said, like this has like some foam on the bottom. You can usually just buy like strips of foam, and then you cut the foam and you put that under things. So like the board, you might want to have some foam. This actually has like these little rubber stopper things that are balancing it, and that works just fine. I've never really had a huge issue with using or with vibration in general. So foam, zip ties. Just have a lot of zip ties around. As you can see, like this has zip ties on it. There's zip ties all over here. There's just zip ties everywhere. Zip ties are great. Get them. Electrical tape. There's electrical tape everywhere here. Like everything is electrical taped. I call it, this actually I call ET, and it's not because it's not in reference to an alien. It's electrical tape. And then Velcro strips. So double-sided, or not double-sided Velcro. Like Velcro that's like sticky on one end and then Velcro on the other. The reason you have that is because this, you put some Velcro here, you put Velcro here, and then you have these little like Velcro straps. Let's separate it. So you've got Velcro straps like that, and then to connect the battery, you literally just put the battery on there, strap it, connect this to this is my low voltage reader, connect that, connect this to the actual quad, and start your engines. And then when you want to switch it out, you just literally pull these apart and switch out the batteries. It's very fast, so I like having it. But again, if you only have one battery, then whatever, just electrical tape the battery there. Who cares? So anyway, there's that. So and then the converters, like I said, you might want to have some of those. And got these bullet adapters. These are super useful. So especially if you have like this is my power distribution board. You take these bullet adapters and you basically to the wire, you put the male end connects to one wire, the female end to the other wire, and then to connect those, you just use these little bullet adapters, connect them, and you're good to go. So it's like really quick, especially if you need to flip them around. When we go to connect the ESCs and the motors, you'll see what I mean. When you connect them the first time, chances are you might have to switch positive and negative on a couple of them to make them spin in the other direction. So, because some motors spin clockwise, some motors spin counterclockwise. Finally, before I let you guys go, one more thing that you can make the mistake of is on the motors and the shaft and the propellers. So the way you've got quick attach and detach propellers, like these are very quick to take on and off. And so for me, like they're literally like threaded on here. And so I just, detach them. And the way that these stay on is literally to tighten this, you spin the propeller this way to tighten it, right? So as let's get tight here. So it spins this way to get tight. So to apply torque that way, the motor spins this way, right? So the motor spins this way. So as when the motor is on, it's literally always applying a little bit of torque to the propeller. So that holds the propeller in place. So you actually don't need like a propeller adapter to sit on top and clamp it onto place. But some motors, basically the propeller is totally through and through. Let's see if I can find some. I'm having trouble finding my... Let's see. Let's open up the kit. So, for example, when you buy the quadcopter, you can either buy a kit, you can buy everything separately, you can buy just a frame and put everything together. I recommend getting a kit as best you can. So here's an example of a kit. Let me move this over here. So here, this kit, for example, came with ESCs. So these are ESCs, motors, ESC, motor, and then propellers. If you can tell, first of all, these are carbon fiber propellers. If this is your first quad, don't use these. These are like nice propellers. Use something cheap for a while until you're not crashing anymore. Then think about using these. But anyway, these, you can see, they're totally like, they don't screw on. They like just sit on, and then you use a propeller adapter like this, which will screw on top of that propeller and hold it in place. So depending on what kind of motor you have, that might be a little different. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, I'll put this all back. So that's that. Anyway, this is a kit. This came with basically the frame, the motors, and the ESCs. And that's it. It doesn't have a control board as far as I can recall. I don't see it in there anyway. Some of them will come like with everything you need. So really just kind of look around and make sure. Because the only thing that you really need to pay attention to is you want to make sure the ESCs and the motors are together. That's probably the only thing I would always buy together is motors and ESCs, so you can make sure they're like compatible with each other and push enough power basically. So I'm pretty sure those are all the requirements, all the like stuff that you're almost certain to need. I might have forgotten something, so check the list to make sure. Now, finally, I'm going to talk about some of the optional stuff. So that stuff is basically how you could build a quadcopter and fly it around. I don't know what I did. What did I do with the quad? Oh, here it is. I couldn't figure out where I put it. So that'll get you to this point. Now, I'm going to talk about what we're going to do after that. So the next step is quite literally we want to add a Raspberry Pi to our quadcopter. So this is a Raspberry Pi 2. Now, basically, if you're just looking at this, you can see, like, where is the Raspberry Pi going? So maybe we could fit a Raspberry Pi in here, right? Cool. But not only do I want a Raspberry Pi, but I actually want to add one more thing, and that's going to be the Brick Pi. So the Brick Pi just sits on top of the Raspberry Pi. Possibly, connects into the GPIO pins there, right? So that sits on top. And so we can still probably stuff that in there, but it's going to be a real tight fit. So actually what I'm going to be doing is what's here, but covered in a bunch of electrical tape, is the power distribution board. And then what's stuffed over here, are the ESCs. If we could move the power distribution board and the ESCs, this whole space in here would be totally open to put anything we wanted. So, i.e. a Raspberry Pi and a Brick Pi and some other stuff even. Because the battery goes on the bottom. A lot of people actually have this pretty clean and they put the battery in here And I will admit, if you can put the battery in here, because the battery is like the heaviest part, your balancing is way better. So I may end up putting the battery there too. But the main crux of the point here is that we want to open up this space a little bit more. And the way I'm going to do that is, this is another frame, but it's just to kind of show you, is this is missing the top part, but this is the bottom part, and it usually clamps down onto these arms. So what I did was, or what I'm planning to do, is I bought a bunch of these spacers, okay, and I'm going to add these spacers, because you might say, oh, you've done it already, but no, I actually haven't, because these aren't actually very sturdy, because they have spacers here, but this could slide up and down these arms. So I bought some spacers. The power distribution board is actually going to sit in between these two boards. The ESCs will go on the bottom to save a bunch of space. The Raspberry Pi goes in here. The battery pack goes in here. Brick Pi in here. Or the battery pack might end up going down here. We'll see. Along those lines, I know I've mentioned, the battery pack and flaming and all that, but most frames come with like landing gear that actually aren't these tubes. These are spacers basically, but it's a landing gear that's actually just like this little, I don't know, V-looking thing. That was not tall enough to protect my battery when I landed, so I actually added these little spacers, which are basically identical to these. So keep that in mind. I added those, right? So that's kind of why you want to have a little bit of extra parts laying around. And yeah, so anyway, getting the basic quad built relatively similar. From there, customizing it's a lot more complex, but those are extra things that you might want to have if you're planning to customize. So anyways, long list of stuff, a lot of topics, a lot of stuff to think about and all that. Like I said, the best thing I can suggest is try to find a kit that has almost everything that you need in the kit. I'll do my best to link to some kits for examples, but prices are changing so fast that the stuff that I link to might not always be the best price, or it might be outrageous, or it might not even be available or whatever. So I'll do my best to help you guys out. And that's that. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, leave them below. Otherwise, stay tuned to the next video. We'll start actually putting a quad together using the kit that I have. We'll start soldering some stuff and all that. Just for the record, if you didn't get one of the, like if you have like a board like this that requires soldering, like this one doesn't require the same soldering basically. I do have, I'll at least show a clip or something of me soldering one of these boards as well, just so you can see like both different, both boards. Also, the setting up of a control board like this is different than the setup of a control board like this. So again, we can talk about the differences there. This one has like a nice LCD screen even and stuff. This one's really simple to set up too. So don't feel bad if you want to get this one. I actually really like this one. I just wanted to be able to have it turned, and this one will be compact, easier. I can stuff this one in various other locations. Okay, anyway, stay tuned to the next video. Questions, comments below. Until next time.